Hello, my name is Jessica Miller, and I am going to do a presentation over Camille Pissarro. He is the father of Impressionism. He was born July 10th, 1830 in the island of St. Thomas, which is now the Virgin Islands. His parents are Frederick Abraham Gabriel Pissarro. He was a merchant and he married his deceased uncle's wife, Rachel Manzano Palmy, which they were living in a Jewish community, and it was not very looked well upon because he was marrying technically his aunt, although they had no blood relation. Because of that, life became a little more difficult for that family, and the children had to go to not the best of schools. And in turn, what his family did was send him to a boarding school. Whenever he was 12 years old, he went to a boarding school in France to finish his education. There he met the master, Monsieur Savory, and that is where he started to find his passion for art. He stayed in boarding school until he finished his education whenever he was 17, and he returned back home to help with the family business. Whenever he returned home, again, he helped with the family business for some time, but he wasn't happy. He was very bored. Art was his passion. And whenever he turned 21, he met Fritz Malby, and he decided to abandon the family business and take on art full time. From there, he traveled. He went to Venezuela and drew there for a couple years. And I think that he went to some other places as well. But what he ended up going back to is France. And from France, what he did was he followed a bunch of master artists per se, and he took from each artist certain techniques and certain ways on how they painted, and he developed his own style of painting, which was the beginning of Impressionism. This painting is a pretty famous one. It's the Boulevard of Montmartre. And there's actually 3 different paintings of this, and this one I like the most, and it's called The Afternoon Sunshine. It was made in 1897. It's an oil on canvas, and this particular painting was taken from the Hermitage Museum. There's some questions to ask with this painting. What is the subject matter of this piece? What is the form of this piece, the content of this piece, and the theme of this piece? What I did was I made the picture a little bit bigger so you can have a better view of it while I'm describing this. The subject matter, I believe, is what he was trying to portray, is what life in Paris was in that specific era of time. And I mean, you see, this is big city life. I mean, this is like, reminds me of Chicago whenever I go up there to visit my mom. So you see so many people in carriages and just businesses, just so much life. He did paint this from the Grand Hotel in D. Russie. So he got a bird's eye point of view of this. The form of this, first and foremost, what I like to say with the form is that what I've noticed with all of his paintings is that the horizon is not center of the picture. It's always up higher. So what he found what beauty was is not necessarily the sky, because I mean, the sky's beautiful, but what he liked to see and paint was what was below the sky. And I just find it very interesting that after researching so many paintings, most of them, if not all, they're all off center per se. You could tell with this that he did very fast brush strokes. And with that, I mean, very fast, coarse brush strokes. So you just get the feeling of movement. There's life in this picture without it actually moving. You almost sense that there's movement with it. The blurry objects is another one that makes me feel like movement with this. The close together buildings makes you, even if you didn't know the name of this particular painting, when you first look at this, I mean, one, you could tell it's a big city. Two, you can tell that it's probably downtown because it's very busy and the buildings are very close together. Whenever he uses the light with the paintings, so you can see that, you know, it is in the afternoon, just with the daubs of white all throughout the painting, and with the shadowing and everything, you could just tell that it's during the day. And with saying day time, that has to do with content also. So the content of this is that it's a daytime picture, and you can tell that it's in a large city. And another thing that I noticed after looking at this picture in more detail is that it's not spring, it's not summer, nor is it winter. I believe that it is autumn, because if you see the trees, some of the trees have barely any leaves, more so on the right of this picture. And then when you're looking to the left, the tree does have leaves, but they're, you know, yellow, orange, red, makes you feel that it is fall time, not summer. They're not green, luscious leaves, but they're more brown like you would see in the fall. The theme of this, which would be the last thing I'll discuss with this particular picture or painting, is that I feel that the theme is the life in motion. You know, big city, always on the move, always on the run. This is what you're going to see. So if you're a lay person looking at this painting and you've never been in a big city, this gives you a view of what life is like in a big city. And along with living in a big city, you have that busy atmosphere, and it just, you know, always on the run, always on the go. And it's pretty intimidating with this. And that's all I'm going to say about this particular painting. The next painting I'm going to discuss is the bridge at Montfaucon. And forgive me, I never took French, so my pronunciations of these paintings is probably horrible, but I'm doing the best I can. Again, this painting is by Camille Pissarro, 1847. I don't know if this was on canvas or not. I wasn't able to find specifically where what it was painted on. I'm assuming canvas, but it is an oil painting. And again, with the questions, you know, what is the subject matter of this piece? What is the form of this piece, the content, and the theme? I'm going to blow up the picture a little bit bigger so you can get a better visual of it. Basically, the subject matter of this is, you can see on the bottom right of a woman and a child walking on, I don't know if it's the bridge or if he's painted it on the bridge, but she's walking down a pathway. And you can tell that, you know, the pond is over there to your left. And with the color of the trees, it's either early spring, late summer type with the colors choices that he used. The form, I'm going to go back to the first painting I discussed. Again, the horizon is not center of the picture. The sky is not what's in detail. You can tell that he, you know, it's not that he didn't like painting the sky, but again, where he found where the beauty was what was on earth, not up in the sky. Again, same thing with the quick brush strokes. You see a lot of this in his paintings, and you get that feeling of movement again, but instead of people moving, it's more the wind or the breeze moving. And you can tell by whenever you're looking at the pond, you can see ripples in the water. So you could just get the feeling of a warm breeze on a summer day or spring day. And you can also see, you know, the light depicted. It's not, you can tell that it's not noon, but it's not the evening either. So it's somewhere in between, just where you can tell. I mean, you can't see where the sun is, but you can see the light of the trees and how the color changes are on the trees, that it's, you know, probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon would be my guess on whenever he was painting this painting. Excuse me. The form of this, you know, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but he has quick brush strokes whenever he's doing his paintings. It makes you feel the movement. The color choices of this particular painting is very calming. Not, you have a little bit of bright colors, but it's more, you know, earthy tones, greens, yellows, browns, some purple. It gives you a relaxing feeling whenever you're looking at this particular painting. The clothing choices of the woman and the child, you can tell, are simple. So it makes you have a feeling that it's a commoner, or, a farmer, not someone of any type of royalty by any means. He always found the common person was what was beautiful, and that is exactly what he would paint. If he was going to paint a person, it was always a common person, not famous. Going to the content of this particular painting, back to, whenever I was talking about where the sun location was, I believe that is early evening or late afternoon. The setting is in the country and possibly farm life. If you look in the distance of this, it almost looks like fields in the very back, maybe some type of building or something behind the tree on your left. I'll go back. Sorry. To the theme of this is, there's some people that have never lived out in the country. So whenever you look at this particular painting, this can give you a sense of, this is what life would be like living in the country. Normal small town living. And if you lived in the big city, your child wouldn't be able to roam and explore like what in this painting is depicting. So you get to see what a child that lives like in the country can, veer off a little bit from their mom and be able to explore in the safety of it. And that's all I'm going to say about this painting. The third and final painting that I'm going to discuss is called The Harvest. He painted this in 1883. This is an oil on canvas. And I got this particular painting from the Daniel Mailing and Gallery in Paris, France. Again, with the questions, the subject matter, the form, the content, and the theme, I'm going to blow this picture up so we can get a better view of it while I discuss it. Subject matter, this one's pretty easy. Harvest season. I see people hard at work, and you really don't understand, unless you've ever worked a farm, on how many people it really takes to be able to complete a harvest. And I feel like, the subject matter of this is really seeing how many people. I mean, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, and also livestock, and then machinery on top of it. The form. Now with this one, you can barely even see any type of sky. You get a little smidget of it in the top right-hand corner, and that's it. So this is all just the guts of what is going on at this particular moment in time. Whereas, other paintings, you can kind of see the sky, but this one you really can't see much at all. Going back to the quick brush strokes, you can tell that there's not as much blending in this painting as it was in the previous paintings. Harsher lines, it's not soft like you can see in other paintings, where you can tell that there's different colors and stuff being used with this one. His color choices are pretty, I feel, bland. I mean, in the fall, you're going to see, some luscious colors, but not a lot of bright colors. So you get a lot of yellows, golds, browns, reds. And then, even the people's clothing are all pretty simple in appearance. You see a little bit of green brush to the right of this painting, but other than that, you just see a mound of wheat that they've already harvested. And with the clothing choices, back to that, I mean, they are bland, but they are simple. You can tell that it's hot with the hats. You can tell that that they are farmers. There's no question about, who these people are and what they are doing whenever you're looking at this painting, is that they're working hard. They are common folk people, and they are in a country setting. I feel that the content of this particular painting is that that it is fall time. One, from the name of the painting, and two, just with how the painting appears to me, is that it is in the fall. And if anybody knows anything about farmers in the fall, it is such a busy time of year for them. They are working their butts off to try and get this done before the weather changes and their harvest is ruined. And you get to see, how hard of manual labor being a farmer really is, especially in this time of era. Is, they don't have the fancy machinery that we have today. So a lot of it was all done by hand. The theme of this painting, I believe, is the busy life of living on a farm. Living in a big city, if you've never been to a farm or you've never worked on a farm, you really don't know on how busy and how hard it is. And with looking at this particular painting, you really see on how much labor goes into harvesting your crop. And, it makes you really appreciate on how much work that goes into getting brick, basically. Mr. Pissarro's legacy, he's known to be one of the fathers of Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. To me, I feel after doing the research, he is the father of Impressionism. And you can see his influence in today's Impressionisms of artwork today. I just think that he's a pretty special guy. And one thing I did find while I was doing some research, a little tidbit of information, is that there are several paintings that were actually discovered in the late 90s in a villa overlooking the Hudson River in upstate New York, and they were preserved from Pissarro's early paintings and drawings where, if you do any type of research on this man, a lot of his paintings were destroyed in the Spanish World War, I believe, and like he had over 1,500 paintings, and then whenever he came back from that, most of them were destroyed. I think only like 400 were left. So it's quite the treasure that was found in this villa, and it was Melby's. Melby owned it, and then he went to China and it sold it, and then the painting stayed there, and they found it, and his name was signed on it, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, they're now in a collection. It's called the Collection of Olana, and it travels the world today to different museums. So that's pretty special. And that is the end of my report. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Thank you.